everyone, welcome back to the Welcome Home podcast. Today I'm joined with Em Sheldon. Em is a lifestyle, travel, beauty, fashion and everything else blogger extraordinaire. She's also one of my best friends and she happens to have just completed a full renovation in central London. So Em, thank you for joining us.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to finally be here.
We have been saying we're going to do this for, oh my goodness, what, a year?
Yeah, I feel like even when you first started this, you were like, you're going to be a guest, and we are finally here, so it's a good day.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about you, about your story, how you got to where you are today in your career.
Okay, so I started a blog back when blogs were like the big thing, and I just didn't realise, I mean, Instagram wasn't even a thing back then. I think I started my blog in 2012, so my blog is 10 years old this year.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And I just wanted to be a magazine editor. I absolutely loved writing. Started this blog, and then within 6 months I won Cosmopolitan Best Newcomer Award, and then after that went on to win InStyle's Best Travel and Lifestyle Blogger. So it was kind of my blog that was my trajectory. I was always really slow off the mark with like YouTube and Instagram. I didn't really have the confidence when those platforms started, and now I could kick myself. I'm like, I should have just gone for them, but no one knew how big they were going to be.
Yeah, no, that's something you definitely couldn't have predicted.
No.
So would you say your career kind of led you to your home that you bought?
Absolutely. I am so grateful for my career because I feel like, well, without this, I truly don't think I would have been able to buy the home that I have.
Yeah.
And I definitely wouldn't have been living in London, which is really interesting. If I didn't do this as a career, I'm northern, if you can tell from my accent, I would have definitely stayed up north in Yorkshire with my family.
Yeah.
I never in my life thought that I would leave Yorkshire. I lived in Canada for a bit. I love New York.
We're going to add a Yorkshire count in here. We're at 2 so far.
Okay, guys,
When you
sip
hang out
your
with them.
coffee every time I say Yorkshire.
I am predicting 24 times.
They say that you always know when someone's from Yorkshire because they'll let you know that they're from Yorkshire.
So true.
I just said it 3 times.
So you bought your wonderful home in London, and to be honest, it didn't need renovating, did it? It's like one of those things where you decided it was like your dream, you wanted it to be exactly how you wanted it, but it was fine.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that, let's just say I'm not going to make any money on this property, and the whole point of the property, just to be honest here, the whole point of this property was to find somewhere that I love and that I am going to love living in.
Yeah.
It's my home. Whether I'm going to be there for the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, I just want to enjoy living in it. And I feel like there's always so much pressure when people are buying a home. It's like, oh my gosh, how much money am I going to make on it? Am I going to flip the property? Is it my forever home? And with this one, I kind of thought, I'm going to do what I love to it and make it, for as long as I decide to live there, the home of my dreams.
I love that, and I think that's amazing. And I think you could have so easily, I guess, gone and bought somewhere that fitted what you wanted kind of and went with it. But so when you were looking for your property, did you kind of go for something that you knew you could build from?
Yeah, so there were a few options. Basically, we could have gone for a new build, which, as we know, in central London, the new builds generally do tend to be, I swear, they're like 50% more. Smaller size, but a lot much smaller in size, but a lot bigger in price.
Yeah, do you know what my thing is with new builds in London? I just don't think they age very well.
No.
Like, I look at new build kind of areas in London and I just don't get the same feeling that I get of, say, like, I don't know, like an Edwardian house or something
How
like that.
long are they going to be new builds for? So, like, I walk down the river at Chelsea quite a lot, and there are some beautiful properties there. And the new builds, which were obviously new builds a few years ago, no longer look like new builds, but they're still priced like new builds. But now people want to go for the newer new builds.
Yeah.
They don't seem to keep that newness because trends are changing all the time and sky rises are changing all the time. So we were looking into, okay, do we go for something that's a new build that's absolutely stunning, it's ready, it's high tech, we're going to have security, concierge, gym, but it's going to be very small, no outdoor space, and it's going to be such a premium, we would have probably had to move further out? Or do we go for like a beautiful, like not vintage, but like Victorian style classic home? And actually, I spoke to a lot of estate agents. I think I was viewing since, well, I bought my first place when I was 23 and that fell through. So I was literally viewing from 23 till 26. I feel like I did 3 years of viewing, so I viewed a lot of places.
Yeah.
And I realised that I need a bit of character, and also I was told that character resells very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's...
Apparently people in London, I think you're one or the other. You either want that incredible Victorian home, or like our friend Christina, she loves the skyrise, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're kind of one or the other.
Yeah, you got to know what you're looking for.
Yeah. So I very quickly realised what I was looking for. I knew instantly I needed outdoor space particularly because of the pandemic, that made me realise I needed some form of outdoor space.
Yeah.
So we cut like 50 off the list straight away when we realised that there was no outdoor space.
Wow. And before the pandemic, though, were you looking for outdoor space? Was that like an essential or not really?
Not at all, which is crazy. So we lived in a small flat, which we absolutely loved during the pandemic, and it had a small terrace.
Right.
It's like a sun trap. It was quite beautiful. And oh my goodness, even that just felt like nothing. We were so grateful to have some form of outdoor space in London.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, when we were viewing, we were like, wow, a garden would be a dream, which as we know, that's not really, it's crazy that I say on my home account on Instagram, if you're from somewhere like Yorkshire, it's wild that outdoor space doesn't come included, because back home, like, I grew up with like fields all around me.
There's pros and cons though, isn't there? Like in London, the park culture is so different. So on a sunny day in London, the parks will be full. People will be barbecuing. People will be hanging out, having drinks. It's really really common for like kids after school. They go and all hang out in the park instead of going home and in their back garden. I think it's just a different way of living, but I think if you can have the privilege of having a garden and that park kind of lifestyle, then you're onto a winner.
And that's the thing, it is a privilege in London to have a garden, and as a northerner that is just wild, but it really is. So we very quickly turned around to the estate agents, and we were getting to the point where we were wasting a lot of time viewing things, and my boyfriend actually said to me, I'm not viewing anything with you anymore. Like,
really?
You just go and view them by yourselves, and if you think it's the one, tell me.
Okay.
And I wear my heart on the sleeve, so I thought every single one was the one.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I'm like, find the one for me. Gosh, we viewed hundreds of properties, and it was then when I literally said to the estate agents, I don't want a basement, and I need a garden. They were kind of my main things. And also something I learned, which I think is interesting, I needed parking. We viewed like the most amazing townhouse, but because it had been broken up into two, there was no parking permit, so that was an absolute no-go for us.
Really?
Yeah, so certain townhouses in London, depending on the council and stuff, because it was broken up into two, I guess the bottom apartment was given the parking permit, and it meant that there wasn't one for the top apartment.
You know, it's interesting you say that, because a lot of high-rise buildings you don't get a parking permit. So there's a rule that was passed, something about I can't remember what it's called. It's something silly about like something in the sky or not touching the floor or something. So when I lived in a high-rise apartment in Stratford, I couldn't get a parking permit because my house didn't touch the ground.
It's wild, and even if you are buying in, say, like the power station or something, you have to pay a lot of money for a parking permit. It's not like a prerequisite that you are definitely going to get a parking permit included. So for us, I was literally saying to the estate agents, we have a car, we have to drive home a lot, so we do need a parking permit.
So how did you know that the place you bought was the one?
Yeah, so back to the actual place. I knew it was the one as soon as I saw the garden and the kitchen. Okay. So it's a Victorian house, and you kind of walk through, and it's quite cute. It has like cute little the Victorian houses are quite small with their hallways. So you think, yeah, like this is really cute, really homely, and then you walk to like the most beautiful open kitchen, and that's when I was like, okay, yeah, like take my money now, I need this. It had skylights already put in, and the guy that had done the renovation before, as much as it was more of like a lad pad, it was very like bachelor, quite dark colours, navies and blacks. Loved it, and my boyfriend loved it, but for me I wanted something a bit lighter. Like you said, there was nothing wrong with it, but then we did find out on the surveys that it needed a full electrical rewire, so that is why we then did have to end up ripping it out anyway. I guess you had to rip the floors up to do the rewire, didn't you? Yeah, they were kind of like, we can either go through the ceilings or go through the floors, and I wanted new flooring anyway. So.
I feel like it's one of those things, though, that, you know, you'd obviously waited a long, long time to get this place, and you deserve to have the home that you want to live in.
I genuinely feel like everything happens for a reason. There is such a reason why this happened. Like, all of the other ones fell through, they didn't work out. I convinced myself that I was in love with this incredible house that was in an area of London that genuinely I'd never been to before. We just thought it had gorgeous curb appeal, went to view it. It was perfection, and it was too good to be true. It was huge, and it was like under £1 million, which, hello, you do not get a huge place in central London for under £1 million.
No, of course.
And I was like, take my money, and then, shock, it was cash buyers only because it was a flying freehold.
Right.
So I've learned a lot, and I've fallen in love with a lot, and I've been heartbroken a lot.
Yeah.
But then this one, it was the garden and the kitchen and the light. For us, obviously, we do like content. Light is super important.
Oh yeah. So if you're listening on Spotify, head over to the Welcome Home YouTube channel. We're currently in a flat in Stratford, and it's so light and bright and airy, and it
Yes.
makes work so easy. And also, something for me is I always want you to be able to look at the things that I create and think, oh, that looks pretty, and it'd be really pleasing to the eye. Like, maybe you don't think about it that deeply, and I'm sure you don't, but for me, I just want to present you as something that's easy to watch and quite pleasant.
But they would probably notice if it wasn't pleasant.
Probably, yeah.
So if it wasn't pleasant, they'd be like, oh, that feels a bit dark or a bit yellow. These are things that, yeah, to the normal eye you wouldn't realise, but when I was viewing places, I was very much like, yep, that would be a great filming room. Yep, that's going to be great for Instagram content. It was so important for me. So we had like 3 huge skylights, and I'm so grateful to the guy before. Thank you for putting them in, because they elevate the space. They make it so big. And the garden, like, every single person that comes into my garden is like, what?
Yeah, it is incredible. So talk us through the renovation journey.
Yes.
You completed, you got the keys. What was the first thing you did?
So of course there were loads of issues, which I won't go into because it's going to bore you, but with the pandemic and stuff, most people who are buying properties know it takes a lot longer. So once we finally got the keys, oh my gosh, I cried. I actually cried when I walked inside, and I cried.
You went alone, didn't you?
I went alone, and I cried happy. I didn't cry happy tears. I cried sad tears because it was raining, and I'm very like I'm very philosophical, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is pathetic fallacy. This is really negative that it's raining on my first ever house. And I just stood in my kitchen and sobbed. I was like, what have I done? But I think it's just such an overwhelming experience.
Yeah.
It's the most money you will probably ever spend in your life. No one wants to spend that much money, whether it's £1 or £1 million. It's money that you've worked hard for. And I found it really overwhelmingly. I felt very lonely. My boyfriend was at work. He couldn't come with me. My parents were. Where were they? In Yorkshire.
I get that. I totally relate to that, because I went and got my keys on my own, and I didn't cry, but I definitely felt that sense of loneliness, as in like, man, it wasn't an anticlimax because, oh my goodness, I got my dream house, but it was like, oh, this isn't quite how I pictured it.
For me, it was anticlimactic. I thought that an estate agent like takes you there, opens the door, says welcome, congratulations.
Right.
No, like, does that happen?
In America.
Oh, okay. So they literally handed me, I've watched too much Selling Sunsets. They handed me like a bunch of keys. I'm like, yeah, congrats. And I'm like, is that it? This whole
that sounds
experience
so
is
anticlimactic.
Oh my god! And I was just like, wow, is this the biggest mistake I've ever made? I'm fighting with an umbrella, all of these keys in one hand.
Oh.
But then the next day, I went back with my boyfriend. The sun came out. We had pizzas. We just sat on like cushions of pizzas. And then that weekend, my family came around, and suddenly I thought, this was meant to be.
Yeah.
Seeing the sunlight come through the garden. We even saw a parrot in the garden. I saw that there were like apple trees in the garden and apples growing, and my auntie was super excited about it. She was like, oh my god, look at the wildlife in London.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started by basically doing my surveys. Once my surveys came back, we then had to get the electricians in. So first point of call was to absolutely rip the place out, which is wild. We lived in it for a few months actually, because the advice I was given on Instagram actually was live in your property first, because you can figure out what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah.
And that was fantastic. So we had a few months where we were living in the bachelor pad. And we realised that like the way that the shower was, we didn't really like it. We didn't like where the bath was situated. We thought the sink was too small. Really random like icks that you can live with. But if you are going to remodel something, we could make it easier for us.
Absolutely. More efficient living.
Yeah. So if you can be efficient and it is livable, which mine absolutely was, we lived there for a few months and we were making notes all the time. Like, let's not do this. Let's change this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. So you moved out during the reno, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. And again, super, super privileged, because we thought we were going to have to either rent somewhere, live in a hotel, or move back to my parents' house or Matt's parents'
Where's
house.
your parents' house?
I don't know if you've heard, but my parents live in Yorkshire. Sip your coffee, guys. Matt's parents live in Derbyshire, so, it's a bit of a difference, because a Yorkshire person's not meant to be with someone from Derby.
Oh, really? Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing.
Oh, okay.
It's like a War of the Roses or something.
Really? Is this like in Scotland, the 2 football teams?
This is history for you guys, yeah. If you're on YouTube watching, comment below if anyone's from Yorkshire. But my granddad gets quite insulted. He's like, oh, you could have found someone from Yorkshire.
Really?
It's a thing,
Oh
yeah.
my goodness. So yeah, you moved out, you stayed in a beautiful place, and how long did your reno take?
Oh my gosh. So yeah, we were super lucky that our friend Josie, hello Josie, super grateful for her. She basically gave us the keys to her place, which was stunning, and it was kind of like 25 minutes, 35 minutes up the road. So we just kept driving back and forth, which was much easier than being at home.
Yeah.
And it was meant to take, this is hilarious, it was meant to take 12 weeks. So I was like, Josie, I think I'll be with you for like 8 to 12 weeks. She was like, amazing. It ended up taking, I would say, 6 to 7 months.
How many weeks is that? Because mine's been predicted 22 weeks. And I'm like, there's no way you're doing that in 22 weeks.
So that would have been 3 months. So it took double the time. And I've got to say, we're still like only 90% of the way there. Something I've realised, and this is no like shade to the builders, because the builders are amazing, but they're so busy and they're so good. And I've heard this from everyone, that they do not like to come back and fix snags. Okay. So we have a lot of snags, but they're just too busy. They like do their job and then they're on to the next one. So why would they drive all the way to like spend 10 minutes fixing a snag? That really bothers me, but they don't really care.
Yeah. So talk us through what you did.
Yes. So once the electrics were ripped out, that was like wild for me, and I'm still annoyed because I didn't get enough pictures of my kitchen before, because I didn't know it was going to get ripped out that day.
Oh, okay.
So if you are doing a renovation, take lots of pictures. So yeah, the kitchen was ripped out, the flooring was ripped out, the electricians came in. It was like a military operation. They were phenomenal. Craig and his team, most phenomenal electricians I've ever come across. We've used them so much since, just on it. They did a full rewire. I think it took about a week. Then we actually had a media guy come in, and he kind of worked with the electricians to make it a smart home. We were told that if you make it a smart home, it just sells better.
Okay.
Again, I'm not planning on selling right now, but everything is getting very smart. Look at like Teslas, look at...
Yeah, this is a central London thing though, isn't it?
So you in central London, people are looking, is it smart home enabled? So we paid a bit extra to get the wiring put in to make it smart home enabled. So it means
so you haven't actually set up the smart home?
We have some things. So like we have a projector that we got built in, and we can say like, Alexa, turn down the lights, turn on the projector. And the fireplace is voice activated. It depended, like it was up to us.
Do you know what my theory is? The smart home, which is why I think it's quite cool you've got a hybrid. So this flat here, it's all on like a iPad. Yes. You do the temp and everything. That's amazing. But it's the maintenance of it. Like, what if one day it just doesn't work, and then you have to reset it, and you have to do this. You have to call. Like, imagine if it was the middle of winter. For some reason, it doesn't work. You can't turn your heating on.
Because I don't trust technology. No, it always messes up.
Yeah, like, I guess there's always a manual override.
So there's always going to be a manual override, and as long as you have a good team, like our electricians came out the other day, fixed something for us immediately.
Yeah.
Wear and tear happens. If you're already a client, generally things like electricians and plumbers will come out immediately.
Yeah.
It's more getting the builders back. So with the tech stuff, you should be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, so you did the full rewire.
So we did the full rewire, and that was when the fun started. So that's like the boring basic stuff, the stuff that you have to spend money on that is really annoying because you don't see that money.
And like the structural thing. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Do you know how much it costs to take chimney breasts out?
Yeah. Thousands. And the rewire, oh my goodness. I did a comparison on Instagram, and I have a home account, and I always sell my home account. Like, we do like question and answers because it's really cool to hear from other people in different areas, like how much they paid. People were paying for like a 3-bed in Leeds. They were paying like, I don't know, £5,000 for a rewire, whereas for like a 3-bed in London, like some of the quotes were like £20,000.
It's really interesting you say that, because I know a lot of people kind of renovating in London who source a lot of their things from outside of London.
Yes.
But then you get a lot of those kind of, you hit those other kind of roadblocks when it comes to kind of, if the builder isn't from the area, parking. They don't have parking permits, and you have to pay, hundreds for them to park.
Thousands.
Yeah.
Thousands. We calculated it, and oh my goodness, like literally like £10,000 on parking. It's actually ridiculous, like the amount of money that you end up having to pay. Say you have like an entire renovation team coming, you've got like 8 vans in the street, and it could be like, I don't know, £60 per day per van to park or something.
That is crazy. And especially if they're like diesel, you pay more.
It's absolutely crazy. And these are things that like you do not think about, and also things that no one has the budget to do that unless you're like a billionaire.
No, of course.
It's just stuff that adds up. Like, I changed my doors. Oh my gosh, who knew that doors cost thousands of pounds? No, thank you. I'd rather have a handbag.
So you did the rewire, and I guess, to be honest, at that point everything had just been ripped out and you started fresh.
Yeah, so we basically had a blank canvas, fresh electrics, fresh rewire. Everything was like fresh and ready to go. So then we did the bathrooms. My bathroom fitter actually got some availability. He wasn't meant to come for like months down the line, and he was like, someone's cancelled. can I do yours? And I was panic stations because I didn't have any of my tiles, didn't have anything. We had to source everything within, I think we had like 3 days, and he was fantastic. He gave us like his contact at a bathroom showroom who helped us with like gold detailings, and they managed to get everything over in time. They managed to like expedite everything so it came a lot quicker. So the bathrooms were the first things that were finished, and honestly, I cried when I walked into my bathroom. He was like, come and see it. I cried because I just thought it's like my dream hotel bathroom. Just felt so much better than like the property before wasn't, I wouldn't say it was drab, it was just very like,
it was very standard. Like, he was a guy.
it was fine.
It was a lad pad. He'd obviously just gone to, you know, a standard bathroom place, picked a white suite,
And it was
this
fine,
and gone. This is perfect.
It was very livable, it was very comfy, and this is what I've said to a lot of people. So you can renovate your property in like that and it will be fine and livable and amazing. And if you are wanting to like flip something and make money, you can absolutely make money on that. But also you can do what I did and you can make it your own. It depends what you want to do.
Yeah, you were going for dream.
This was never me being like, I am going to make money on this property. This was me being like, I'm probably going to be a bit silly, maybe spend a little bit too much on things, but I'm going to love it and it's going to be mine. It's mine.
Well, I think it's that thing, isn't it? Like, we're both in a really privileged position to be able to renovate a house, and you don't know if you're ever going to be able to do that again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And no, I'm super happy. Like, when I saw the bathrooms, I thought, gosh, because it is very stressful. There's things that like I had no idea you need to know about. Like, people on my home account were laughing at me so much. I was like, guys, what's grout? And I was like finding out that who knew grout had thousands of different colours.
Oh my goodness, so much. I went to Top Tiles the other week and they have like a board of all the different grouts.
Yeah, you have
and then
all this to
you
come.
pick your tiles and then you can try loads of different colour grouts because they all look so different. And I said to the guys in there, oh my goodness, were so lovely. There was like older men and they were just loving watching me be so in awe of this whole thing.
They are incredible.
Yeah, and they were like, look, we would do this. And I was like, well, looks great to me. So it's crazy.
And don't forget, mine was during the pandemic. My entire renovation happened during the pandemic. We actually thought it wasn't going to go ahead when we put the builders in, but then the government announced that building was allowed to go ahead.
Yes, that's why, again, so another reason you had to move out. I
couldn't, from like a pandemic viewpoint, safety point, rather than us staying in one room and like them doing it like that, it was not safe. Like, our builders and particularly our electricians were epic. Like, they all wore masks. They were super, super on it. And I just wasn't going to put anyone in that position. Like, my things took longer actually because my teams all had to come separately due to COVID. I don't think it was a law because they were all in the building trade, but they all wanted to protect their teams.
It was a respect thing.
And the respect I had for them was like, yeah, that's amazing. So I couldn't do things like go and look at grout. For me, it was all like Googling it, a guessing game, looking at videos online, looking at Instagram accounts. So yeah, once I'd actually seen it all come together, the reason I cried is because I was like, this was worth it. Because I'm not going to lie, renovating is hard, it's dusty, it's messy, and it's very stressful. There's so many things that I was like, I just don't really care. I don't know what decisions I'm making.
Yeah.
And then we moved into the kitchen, which I was obviously, favourite room of the house.
Honestly, guys, it's wonderful. I will link Em's home account down below so you can go and have a look. But there is just something really special about that room.
It's so bright, isn't it? It's so it's so airy. It's even on the darkest of days. It's so calming because you have the sound on the skylights of the raindrops. It's just my happy place. Like, Emily and I sit there together all the time. She lives with me pretty much. I love it. And I want that. I want my friends to be able to come to my home and feel like it's their home. That was my biggest thing, actually, because I used to spend so much money staying in hotels in London. I know how much it costs. I want to be able to say to my bestest friends and my family, you never have to pay for a hotel again. Like, my home is your home. And I want them to feel like, wow, this is like a 5-star hotel. This is like a luxury, beautiful space. And the kitchen for me is just the perfect level of like balance.
Yeah. So how did you go about your kitchen? Did you get a custom kitchen? Where did you go?
So I used the most insane company. I love them so much because they're a family-run company. They're called Kerr Kitchens, Coeur. I don't know if it's Coeur or Kerr.
I would say Kerr.
Kerr, yeah. And Sam, who owns the company, is just phenomenal. I mean, I called him one day and I was like, hey, I found you on Instagram and I'd love to do a kitchen with you. From day one, he was just phenomenal. I didn't even need to even think about going with anyone else. Sent me the designs, did me the 3D drawings, and I felt really rude because I'm like, I don't want to make you keep doing work, but that's what they do. They like render it.
Yes.
They render it all out. And I basically sent him loads of inspo from Pinterest and Instagram, screenshotted it all, emailed it to him, And that's how we came together to make the kitchen work.
Wow, and he really brought it to life, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Because it is just wonderful.
I was like, everything needs to be gold details. I don't want it to be cold because I think marble can be a bit cold. So I was like, choosing my worktops and my slabs were the hardest bit because everything that looks marble can be a little bit too grey. Mm-hmm. I don't like grey.
No.
So I had to find one that had like specks of gold in it. And I wouldn't say my kitchen looks grey, would you?
No, not at all. Your kitchen's very warm, but not in an orangey way.
Yeah, and it's very difficult when you're working with creams and whites for it to not be too white and for it to not be grey. Yeah, and I love Scandi vibes. So, yeah. But I feel like because then we added panelling in the lounge. We have a third bedroom that we changed into a lounge. We love it as like our cinema snug room. We added panelling in there, so that then brings in the modern to like the Victorian vibes, which I love.
Yeah. So you're at the point now where you've pretty much just got snags, haven't you, to do?
Yeah, like random snags, and we're kind of, as we're living in it, we're realising that like I don't really like the bed. It was just a stopgap. It's maybe a bit pink now. I'd like to change it to something neutral. I love pink. I'm like team pink. But I basically ordered a bed that had like 2-day delivery. And it's cute, but now I want to change the space up. But stuff like that's easy to do.
Yeah, if you're trying to envision Em's home, think Scandi mixed with boot clay.
So much boot clay, guys.
So much boot clay, mixed with this kind of warm, marbly vibe, but it's not grey. It's really hard to explain.
There's a lot of gold touches, but again, when I spoke to everyone on my Instagram account, and I love how everyone in the home community and the interiors community is so helpful. Like,
so nice.
Everyone is so nice. And I don't want to offend anyone, but I was trying to say that often too much gold can be a bit tacky, and everyone agreed with me. And it's about getting the perfect balance of gold. So like, I feel like I got the perfect amount of gold touches without getting a paintbrush and making everything gold, which
right.
I definitely could have done.
You could have done
that.
Yeah. So this is my favourite question to ask. Is there anything you regret or you would change?
Absolutely. I think about this all the time. So the things I would change, firstly my bed, which obviously isn't a renovation, that's easily done. My wardrobe room, I have these incredible built-in wardrobes, love them. I just wish I got them mirrored, but I could add those on maybe.
Okay.
Because we basically added some beautiful mirrors into the front bedroom, and I would like to have something similar to that in the wardrobe room. Mm-hmm. The wardrobe room is still a work in progress. That's a room that we're just dealing with right now. It's kind of our junk room, but it is a wasted room right now. It's just kind of storage.
I do think it'll evolve.
It will evolve, but right now that's just not a priority.
Yeah.
I also wish that we put, this is so rogue and so random, I wish I made a space in the kitchen for chopping boards.
Okay.
So Matt bought this, disgustingly ugly chopping board. I only have marble chopping boards, guys. And Matt bought a brown wooden one. Not even like a nice dark brown wooden one, like an ugly brown wooden one that attracts bacteria. My boyfriend and I have very different tastes. And it's just out all the time. And I'm like a freak. I need everything away. And there is nowhere to put it.
You needed one of those thin drawers that you pull out and you can slot it.
Absolutely. So
right.
I was genuinely going to call Sam at my kitchen fit and be like, do you know if there's any way that anywhere we can add this? Like, how can we do this? Because it is annoying me and I just don't know where it could possibly go.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
But what we might do is, and if you check out my home account and stuff, you'll see the bit I mean. We have a mirror opposite our island and there is like a space in the wall there. I am tempted to add some storage in there because it's a wasted wall, it's wasted space.
Yeah.
Maybe something that will be like a bar. And then in the bar, we could have our chopping boards or something.
You know what I'm doing in my kitchen, which is kind of similar? I'm having a juice bar.
Yes,
so
I love that.
I was deciding whether I did full floor-to-ceiling cupboards all down one side of the kitchen, but it just looked too much like wardrobes.
Yes.
And I didn't want that vibe in the kitchen. I'm doing a classic shaker kitchen. So I worked with this designer that was separate to the kitchen company, and she was saying like the trend, not that you should follow trends with your homes, is to have like this juice bar. And I was like, I don't drink juice. Like, not my thing. She was like, no, but think about it. Like, you know, you're not having a utility room. You get a second sink. You know, if you ever have a kid, you can keep their bottles over there and sterilise them over there.
Protein shakes, you have protein shakes.
Exactly. She was just saying it's a house that can kind of grow with you and adapt, and having a second sink in your kitchen is never a bad thing.
But you could have it as like a granola bar, or you could have it as like a
You
cereal
could
bar.
have it as like a, you know, when you have people over and you have a dinner party, you fill the sink with ice and fill it with drinks.
Have it as like a bar.
Yeah. So, and that's what I'm saying, that's kind of what I'm doing for my extra storage.
So I feel like we're always constantly evolving, and that's a great thing. Like, I have a room in the middle of my house which is just empty. It's an outdoor space, which it's fun. I'm still deciding what to do with that. Like, do I add a roof to it? Do I turn it into an office? Do I paint it all white and have it as a beautiful outdoor space with some plants? Like,
So hard.
the great thing is that you obviously cannot change your kitchen and your bathroom. Another thing that I probably would have done different, because we had to rush with the bathrooms, I would have done one different.
Okay,
So
my
bathrooms are matching. I love them. Like,
but they're sisters, not twins.
yeah.
Like they're the same vibe and the same tiles and things, but one's got a bath and one's got, like, they're different.
And I do think it gives, again, on my home account, everyone was like, no, it's fine. Like, it gives a luxurious feel having the same bathroom. But because I didn't move out of London and buy like a 10-bed beautiful house with loads of land, I don't think I played around with my creativity as much. And it would have been nice to have a completely different bathroom.
I see that. I understand that, especially as someone that's doing a renovation at the moment. I was working with my colour consultant, which sounds very fancy, and I said to her, I was like, I would just love you to walk into every room and it feel like it has an identity of its own.
Yes.
But I would like them all to flow and work together, and I think I get what you're saying.
So I've saved some inspo for the next home, because it would be so stupid to rip it out when I've just had it done. I would not do that, and I do love it. But I would like to go for like a pink kind of quartzy marble. I've seen, oh my God, the most amazing stones. So watch this space. I think in the future, like, I would love to play around a bit, maybe not play it as safe, go for like some pinks with some golds, and I've seen like a really nice scalloping detail that I love, like black and white scalloping. So loads of
This
ideas.
is cool.
Yeah.
So would you renovate again?
Absolutely.
Really?
And I would be so much better at it this time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm young. This was my first thing I've done. I went into it with kind of like my eyes closed. I didn't really understand what people were asking me. I maybe got mugged off a little bit with some things. Yeah, I would definitely do it again.
Did you find the process overwhelming? Like, were you there every day? How much input did you need to have when it had actually started?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, they need a lot from you. It was more like, they'd be like, can you come check this? Can you come check that? And you do need to go and check, because I don't know, it is your home after all, and you want to make sure that it's fine. But then at the same time, my builder, he does a lot of clients in like Chelsea, and they don't live there. They live in Dubai, for example. And they just do FaceTimes. So you can make it work remotely. Like, if I did have to move home while it was being renovated. It just depends how hands-on you want to be. A lot of people employ a project manager. I didn't, because it is very expensive. And I mean, you can hardly afford renovating anyway, because everything's an added cost. So a project manager on top would have helped, but to be honest, it was an expense I just didn't.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Could not afford.
Well, talking of, expense of renovating, I think it goes without saying that it's a ridiculously expensive thing to do, especially after you then, you buy the property, you take that massive hit, and then you then have to source the money to renovate. So was there any cost-saving tips that you can kind of give us?
Yeah, no, it's definitely true, because I do keep saying to people, I could have just bought something that was cheaper and needed a full renovation. Instead, I bought something that was nice, but then I still renovated it anyway, which was a bit silly from me, but it was fine. It was that.
Yeah, but you got the garden, you got the parking, you got
it's what I like.
Yeah.
So it's fine. I'm over that now. So in terms of money saving tips, absolutely. I know a lot of our friends have said that they just painted their homes themselves. Personally, I'm not a painter. I'm not a decorator. I just got the experts in to do everything.
Right.
However, if I was cost crunching, I would absolutely paint it myself. It's definitely not easy, but like, that will literally save you thousands in London.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Things like floor, if you don't like your floor, you don't have to just like get an entire new floor. You could just sand it down. You could literally just you can pay, because I got some quotes for it, you can pay someone to literally just sand down your entire floor, and then that will maybe give it a new lease of life. Maybe you don't like the colour, mine was a bit yellow, so we could have just sanded the entire thing down rather than getting new floor.
Right.
In terms of storage, oh my God, you just don't need to spend loads of money on storage. I feel like we did get fitted wardrobes, but we got a lot of quotes. So if you're going to get quotes, they do say get between 3 and 5 people, and then you can kind of get the average.
Yeah.
So for my like electrics, one was like all the way up at £20,000, one was down at like £8,000. So you can figure out how much you should be paying.
Yeah.
And also ask people, don't be afraid to just say to people, hey, how much, could I just ask like roughly how much you spent on this? Like, a lot of people ask me, how big is your kitchen and how much did it cost? And I think that's super important. It's also important to realise that people spec stuff up. So you could have the smallest kitchen in the world, but you could spend £100,000 on it because you went for like the most insane hob. Or, my builder said to me, some people have tiny kitchens, but it cost them £100,000 to renovate it because they went crazy on the spec.
Yeah. And did you find, obviously with the pandemic, did you find there was a lot of delays on materials or anything like that? Because at the minute, something that, you know, dealing with as a standard in the industry is prices are just through the roof.
Yeah.
Timber has tripled, and getting hold of it is just a whole other thing.
Yeah, timber was really, really bad. I think that tripled for us when we were building the outdoor pod. I've spoken to a lot of people that have had issues, particularly with rising prices, and a lot of things have been stuck in transport, so they can't actually get over here.
Yeah.
And when we took some timber out that was on like a panel in our garden, and we left it out of the front in a skip for a while, and it all got taken.
Wow.
Because that's so expensive to people now.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it was rotten or something, but it still got taken. So yeah, material prices have definitely gone up.
So yeah, you just touched on your pod. You added a garden pod.
Yes.
And talk us through the thinking with that, because I think this was such a smart thing to do. I think there's always a fear when you're going to add something in your garden. Oh my goodness, what if it makes it feel smaller? This, that. It makes your garden feel so much bigger.
So most places in London, obviously it's a privilege to even have outdoor space. And most of them, when they do have outdoor space, they've already been fully extended. Everyone in London nowadays is like fully extended. It's quite hard to find a property that you can extend, I would say. I don't know if you'd agree.
I think definitely a lot of them have had roof extensions and maybe a small ground floor extension. But the thing with London is a lot of areas are kind of maybe conservation areas, or there's certain areas where you can't extend past a certain point because it has to match the street view because you're, you know, in a terrace.
You wouldn't really know about it until you put the application in. So you're kind of going in blind because you're like, okay, I'm going to buy this place, but I don't know if my planning is even going to get approved.
Yeah, as well, just to note, a lot of places in London, even houses, are flats, and then, you know, you're working with leases and you have to get permission to extend just from, you know, like that point of view. Yeah.
So
the leaseholder.
When we saw the garden and we saw how long the garden is, I was like, oh my goodness, we have to get this property.
Because my boyfriend's stuff needs to be in the garden and not in my house.
Because I know that legally you can put a pod in the garden. Like that is already something that you can do without having to go through all of the faff and everything. So the garden was honestly, like, it was just wasted space. It was very, very long. And there was just kind of like this random thing at the end. Do you remember? It was like a random, we stood on it with Libby that day.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, like a decking kind of
like
built up.
A pergola without the roof.
Yeah, it was really odd.
I mean, don't ask me why at the end of this garden, he just put some random decking.
Like Love Island vibes.
Like Love Island vibes.
Nowhere near the villa.
But like there were no chairs there because we have a patio, then a garden, then decking.
Weird. Love Island decking.
Yeah. So we ripped out the decking. We put some foundations down. I say we. Did not get my hands dirty. My builder did it.
Did you do anything?
No, because it would probably go wrong. And he built the pod. So we went for whatever the legal requirements are. I believe it just has to be 2.5 meters. You're not allowed to have like a pitched roof. It has to be a low roof. Da-di-da-di-da. And we literally have an entire new room. It's huge. It is like, well, if you were renting it out, it would be like a one-bed flat in terms of like the space.
Sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, you could easily put a kit. Like it could be a studio flat. You could.
But if you were to put we have electrics and obviously lighting and stuff. But if you were to put a bathroom, plumbing, and kitchen in there, that's when you do need a lot of permission, and it gets a bit tricky because technically you are literally building a home.
You know what's really interesting? I was on Airbnb the other day, and someone was renting out a garden pod as a studio flat.
Yes.
But not like a nice pod like yours. It was a shed that they'd insulated, and I just thought to myself, that definitely hasn't passed planning because it's a shed.
And the problem is, if you do things like that, you might get away with them, but when you come to sell, you won't, because when you come to sell, the lawyers of the person who's buying your property will find all of these problems. They'll want to see that you've had proof to do all of that, and you won't be able to sell your property. So my biggest piece of advice is do everything you can legally, like ask for all the permission you need, double ask, triple ask, get everything in writing, because we viewed a lot of places, and actually one of them fell through because the person hadn't had permission to do an extension. It's just tricky waters that you don't want to get into.
I've just never heard that going well for anyone. I've never heard anyone taking risks.
Just don't mess up the system.
Well. Do you remember that guy that built a whole thing on his land in Scotland or wherever it was, and then put hay bales around it for years, and then got found out by the council, obviously built a whole house, and he had to take it all down?
Yeah, no, it's old school. It's a bit silly. I guess they do it for a reason, but It's just, yeah.
Especially in the city. People are going to see that in a city.
Let's not mess around with that stuff. I actually heard there's a place, we were viewing these gorgeous properties, and there was this like really big white house that really stuck out. Like they'd basically like rendered the entire house. And I said to the estate agent, gosh, that's beautiful. And she said, oh, they never got planning. They'll never be able to sell that. They've basically been told they have to take it down or they can't sell it. And it's like huge.
Wow. That is crazy.
Yeah.
These are things that you just would never know about until you get into the whole world.
And this is a great thing. It's all a learning process. Like every single day you're learning something new. There's always people you can ask. Google is a great resource, genuinely. Friends you can ask.
Yeah. Where did you get most of your inspo from? Was it Pinterest?
Pinterest is like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with it. Instagram and Pinterest, I would say, are the absolute best for home inspo.
Yeah, I mean, I think I spend a lot of time pinning on Pinterest, but also I think it confuses me.
Oh my gosh, it confuses me. Even with weddings, I'm like, I need 6 weddings. I want a beach one, I want a barn one, I want one in Italy, I want one in Yorkshire. Like, it's so hard. And I feel like that with homes. I'm like, well, I need 10 bathrooms.
Yeah.
You know what I realised though when I was renovating, because stuff's so expensive, I was like, oh my goodness. So if I had 8 bedrooms, I would need to buy 8 beds, 8 sets of linen.
Well, think of the radiators even. Windows.
16 pillows.
Yeah.
The windows, oh my goodness, my window actually cracked. This is another thing, you run into a lot of issues when you are renovating, so my window cracked.
Oh, we have so many stories we could tell from
Guys,
place,
if you want another podcast, you just say, we'll
Do
be
you know what story we could tell that would be really interesting? Not today.
Oh, guys, we have a story. If you want us to get some tea and sip the tea and tell you a story, it's piping hot.
Piping hot.
That would be great. That could be a story time.
Should you do it on my YouTube channel?
Yeah, we should. Oh my God, let's do it.
Do you actually want to?
Yeah, I will.
It's quite a dramatic story.
It is actually traumatic for both parties involved.
Do you want to tell them what it is?
Yeah, someone basically broke in when Emily was staying. But let's not say anything else.
Yeah. If you want a story time on that, we'll do it. Anyway,
it's been dramatic. I have lots of cameras. It's fine. But one of my windows smashed, like a huge bay window. I just
out of nowhere, wasn't it?
Out of nowhere. I just heard this noise be like... And I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? And Matt was like, yeah, I don't know. I've looked out of the window. It's nothing. And then I was like, Matt, look at the window. And the entire window had shattered. They said from the heat from the radiator, it being cold outside. And all I'm going to say, guys, is that was so expensive to fix. So as we were saying, if you have so many, you like to think all of your windows don't break at once. But, you know, all of these things keep costing money. Like there's a crack in the front of my house. I've been quoted £5,000 to fix it. Everything in house terms, everything is at least £1,000. That's what I found.
I also think there's kind of the postcode plays into it as well, though. Like we're saying, you know, Em's home is in central London, which I think people see the postcode and they just whack the price up, which is wild.
Some people definitely came round and they thought I was like a single girl who was maybe a bit dumb, and they were just like, yeah, 20 grand. And I would say to my builder, you know, like he just quoted me that much, and he was like, it's because he doesn't want to do the job. Like he's just kind of basically taking the mick because he knows that some people will pay it.
Was really good, wasn't he? And you were talking to him about this, and he was like, no, like it's just ridiculous. You can't charge that.
And my builder, he was amazing. He was like, tell me how much you're paying for everything. Told him, and he because he renovates himself, and he was like, yeah, you may be overpaying a bit on that, maybe not on that. That's a good price. It's just about getting in with genuinely decent humans. There are actual decent humans in the industry that are not cowboys.
No, and I think you spent a lot of time sourcing your builder, didn't you? From recommendations, from like Em was saying, you know, it's good to get quotes from so many different places, but you sourced people from online, from forums, from friends.
Actually, the company who sent someone to do my bathroom, he ended up doing so much stuff for me. He actually came back yesterday to help with something. He is amazing, and he said to me after he'd kind of finished everything, you know, we're kind of family now. We've done so much together. If you ever need anything, just call me. And he truly is like one of the best guys I've ever come across. If we need anything, if we need any help, he always helps, gives me advice, calls me. He's like, let me help you with that. And I really appreciate that. So there are decent humans out there.
Yeah. So what is next? Talking completely hypothetically, in the property empire of Em Sheldon, like what's the dream? What would you like to do next? If money was no object.
If money was no object, I would absolutely buy a place in New York tomorrow. It would be very, very different to London. It would still have character, but it would absolutely be like a skyrise apartment, but not a new build. It would be like a quirky New Yorkie skyrise apartment with like stunning city views.
But in Manhattan?
Yeah, I want to live in West Village or Soho, potentially Greenwich, or not in London, New York. or Tribeca. Matt loves Tribeca. I just absolutely love Soho. So that's a dream. I do look quite often, but holy moly, it's like £10,000 for like a 1 bed to rent.
Oh, even like the rental market in New York. So I had a friend that was looking to get a place there not too long ago, and the landlord had asked for their guarantor, if not themselves, they wanted evidence of a bank account with $1 million in.
Apparently renting in New York is so difficult. So like if money was no object, I'd just buy there. Apparently buying's easier. But that would be the absolute dream.
Yeah.
And then I really want a countryside property. I want like I don't actually want like a huge property because it's a lot to maintain. And
Yeah.
you're basically like everything you do, it's times 8 money wise. I would love a cottage, so like a 3 or 4 bed beautiful cottage, kind of like the holiday vibes. I want it to be like the least modern thing in the world. I want it to be like falling apart.
Quaint.
Yeah, I want it to be like wood and everything, just so beyond different to what I have now.
I mean, I think I can so see that being in your future, and I think like it's really amazing. You've got to step back and actually congratulate yourself on what you have achieved. You've bought your dream home in central London, renovated it, and to such an incredible standard. Like, you've got to give yourself a pat on the back for
Thank
that,
you.
because that is huge.
And I have to say, the amount of people who come around who are like in the know and really know property, they're like, okay, this is like really high standard, and that to me is like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And when my friends said, they're like, oh, it was so peaceful, it was like a detox staying there. The feedback I've had has been incredible.
Yeah.
I just want a safe space for my friends and family to stay, and I want them to feel happy and secure, apart from when someone breaks in. That's another story for another day. I just want to feel safe and amazing, and
Yeah. Well, thank you for chatting to us. We've been wanting to do this for so long. So if you do want to check out Em's home account, it is Em Shell Home on Instagram. Check out her main Instagram, her blog, her YouTube, TikTok, everything. You can find her basically everywhere you can find me. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and remember, we've got more stories to tell, guys, so if
Yeah.
you want them,
Let
just
us know on Instagram if you would like to see that story time, because it's wild,
It's piping hot,
isn't it?
and on that
Bye.
note, bye.